Hi everyone, thank you for joining me for Coffee and Card at Home. This is week 3 using the Daisy Lane stamp set and the matching Daisy Punch. And these are the cards that we're going to make today. So this is kind of using the retiform technique a little bit, if anybody has come across that before. And one of our key things that we're going to need today is post-it notes. And that's how we do some masking off to get this effect. So I'm just going to bring in my grid paper so we can get started. So I've done these in 2 different orientations. I've got one which is in portrait, one in landscape, and you can see that either way works really well. So I'm going to show you how to make that. I've decided to use some slightly different colours. I'm using the same colour card base, but I'm using some different colour inks just to show you how you can change things up a bit. So the card base we're using is Petal Pink, and then we'll need a little bit of basic white for our stamping. And first of all, I'm just going to get my card base folded in half and burnish the fold. And then first of all, we're going to get our background done. So what we're going to need to do is a little bit of measuring just to get our post-it notes in the correct place. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to use a ruler, and my ruler has vanished. That's because my children have obviously been taking my bits and pieces off my desk, which is not entirely helpful. So I'm just going to use my centimetre side of my grid paper just for a second. And what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to mark on with a pencil where my halfway point is for putting on my post-it notes. So because this is 14.8, this is a standard card base, I'm going to mark at 7.4. And then I'm also going to mark just going from that point down to the corner, just a couple of dots just to help me to get my post-it note in line. So here we go, using a bone folder as a ruler. It's just to help you to put your post-it notes on in a straight line, really. So I'm recycling my post-it notes, so I'm not using new ones again. So you'll see they've got a bit of stamping on them already. So you just get that in the centre for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to stamp in this triangle first of all. So I'm just going to put my post-it notes on from that point that I've marked, using those little dots that I've marked as well to help me line these up. Get a nice straight line. Now that one's not quite right, so I need to just move that slightly. And then I'm going to do the same at the top. And then that's going to give us our stamping area in that triangle for our flowers. So I'm using the small flower from Daisy Lane. And on my other samples I used Melon Mambo, but I've decided to use rich Razzleberry for this one of my favourite colours. And we're just going to stamp them randomly all over this area. Turn your stamp as you're doing it so that you get it going in different orientation as well. Just do a bit there. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. You can see it comes out a lot darker than my pink, so looking forward to trying it with this colour. So we're just going to put that ink pad away for a second. We will be coming back for that in a moment for our other flower. And then we're going to take the post. Oh, actually, just realised before we do that, I forgot to show you one important step we need to do. this is what we're doing just to make it so it has a clear defined border all the way around the edge. So I've just used Petal Pink, which is the colour of the card. You don't need anything too dark. You could use a pale colour like Crumb Cake, Sahara Sand, Smoky Slate, something like that. We're just getting a little bit of colour on with a dauber. I'm taking a bit of colour off first before I put it on. You're just going along the edge, and this is where, this is like the retiform technique, because the retiform technique works well when you do this. And you might notice that some of my ink from my flowers has actually smudged a bit. That doesn't really matter, it all just kind of adds to the effect really. So next we are now going to take these off, and you will see it gives me a nice clearly defined edge for that little bit that I've just done. Let's take all of those off. Okay, this time what we're going to do is we're going to stamp our leaves onto one of the sections. So we're just going to use our post-it notes just to cover over what we've just done. I'm going to start with the top first. This is a bit messy, so just be careful not to get any sort of ink on your hands and not be able to sort of clean it off very well. So I'm just going to take my leaf now. I'm using Old Olive, and we're just going to stamp the leaves. Again, any orientation, you can change the way around you put your stamp on, how much of it you want to be seen. Just going to get that done on there. And then we're going to do exactly the same on the other corner of the card. I'm going to cover over what we've just done. And then stamp again on here. Now with the retiform technique, what you would do is you would then use your dauber to go around the edges of this as well. But we're not doing that. We're keeping it nice and simple. We're just getting a bit of colour onto that centre bit, but not onto the outer bits, the outer triangles. Okay, so that's that bit done for now. Take those off, and you'll see that we now have our background done. If I bring my other one in, you'll see how much darker that is compared to the previous one. So let's just put that to the side for a minute. We're going to do stamping for our flower and our stem of our flower now. So I'm going to go back to my rich razzleberry, and I'm going to ink up my flower, and I'm going to stamp that. And then I'm going to stamp my stalk of my flower as well. I'm not attaching them because when I actually come to put them on the card, I'm actually going to have one that I'm going to have the flower raised up a little. And then just whilst I'm doing my stamping, I'm going to stamp my sentiment. Now I've decided to use Friend on this one, and I'm just doing that in black. Just going to pop that down in the corner there. Okay, now these stamps are a line drawing. And I want them to look like they've been coloured in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take one of our alcohol blender pens. And first of all, I'm going to start with this stem. Just putting that over the top of the stamp, and the ink obviously then is picked up by the alcohol in the pen and just blended together. So it does make it look like you've coloured it in. So I'm just going to go all the way across that. And I'm just going to scrub it off on my grid paper to make sure there's no green. And then I'm going to start to do the same with my flower. Now I'm going to colour the centre of my flower. And I'm not going to colour all of my flower, but I'm just going to take some colour out along each petal. Just quite random. And then scrub the colour off again so that next time you use your blender pen you're not going to get any colour onto anything else. Now we have just got to cut this out, so a bit of fussy cutting for us to do. So I'm going to cut my flower out roughly and my stem out roughly. So I'm just going to leave a small white border all the way around, which is how our dies work when we're using them. So obviously a little bit fiddly. Just remember to try to turn your card and keep the scissors still when you're cutting, and then that way you don't get any sort of ragged edges or anything. Okay, so that's my stem cut out. Oh, minus a couple of leaves. Let's just go back and do that. Then I'm going to cut out my flower, so a little fiddly this one. Unfortunately, no punch to go with this one. Okay, and then I'm going to cut out my sentiment. Now there's a few different ways you could do it. On my other ones I cut out sort of in a oval shape around it. You could cut out straight. I think for this one I'm going to just use my trimmer and just cut it out straight. Just going to neaten up the edges on here. And then we're just going to put that onto our card, just to make it look like a tag that's hanging from the bottom of the stalk. So like I said before, you can have your flower put on in any way you like. You could have it so that you have it portrait, or you could have it landscape. I'm going to go portrait, I think, for this one. I'm going to stick my flower on the top there, and then have my sentiment coming across over there, I think. So I'm going to slick it slightly to the side My other one I went more central, but you can obviously decide where you want to go. I'm just putting a little bit of Tombow on here. And then I'm going to stick that onto my card. Then I'm going to raise up my flower with a couple of dimensionals. Oops. And stick that like that. Then I'm also going to raise up my sentiment going off at the side there. So I'm just going to put a couple of dimensionals on there as well. And then stick that to the side there. And then finally, the last thing to do is I'm just going to put my bow on, which, bear with me a second, find my twine, which is vanished. Sorry, there we go. So I've got a little bit of twine, which I'm just going to do my 2 bunny ears and cross them over, tie it in a knot to tie my bow. And just hold the knot while you pull the other end to adjust the size of the bow. And then when you're happy with the length, just going to cut that off. And then we're just going to stick that on there to make it look like that is holding on our sentiment, just with a glue dot. So I'm just going to pop my knot on top of my glue dot. Off, and then stick that on there, and there we go, that's finished. So if I just bring back the other 2 cards just to show you the difference. So using exactly the same card bases, I think I even used 2 different pinks on these 2. It just shows how different it looks by having that different colour ink used on it as well. So I hope you'll have a go at making those as well. Just a quick recap of everything that I've used. So I've used a Petal Pink card base and some basic white card for the sentiment and the flower. A little bit of twine, which isn't Stampin' Up. It's almost a bit like garden twine, this one, which I thought went well with the flowers. The stamp set that I've used is Daisy Lane stamp set with the matching daisy punch, and also for the ink colours I've used today, I have used Rich Razzleberry and Old Olive, and then just for my daubing around the edge I've used Petal Pink, my very faded Petal Pink, and then obviously just some Tombow adhesive and dimensionals just to put it all together. So I hope you'll have a go at that kind of semi-retiform technique for your cards. And if you have any questions or if there's anything you'd like to order, please do get in touch and I'll do my best to help you. Anyway, thanks for joining me today and hope to see you again next time. Bye.